So hello to everybody. Now we are going to start our second lecture on the history of medicine. So our theme for today is healing in the countries of the ancient East. The countries of ancient East include ancient Mesopotamia, Sumer, Babylonia, Assyria, ancient Egypt, ancient India, ancient China. This period is from 3 millennium BC until the 4th millennium AD. At countries, ancient East, earlier other placed accomplished translation from a primitive society to the slave it contributed. Heyday culture, ancient world, development philosophy, natural science, and health thoughts. Common features, healing at countries' ancient East. Medicine stood out from among the remaining professions, manifested class approach to doctoring. Medicine has been closely associated with religion, temple, priestly medicine. From an idea about the origin of the disease, myths about souls of humans and animals, a violation of moral and ethical standards of hygiene and traditions. Formed two areas of medicine, empirical or materialistic and religious, mystical and religious. To treat patients, mainly used herbal medicine, began to develop surgical therapies. There have been created the first sanitation facilities, developing hygienic knowledge. There were first medical texts containing records of recipes, description of disease, treatment methods, methods of preparation of medicine. Formed two eras of training healers, a family of knowledge handed down from generation to generation, the knowledge obtained in the common schools at the temples, formed the basics of medical ethics to develop continuity in the areas of medicine between the ancient civilizations. Special features associated with the historical and cultural development of the country. Mesopotamia, the cuneiform and horoscopes, Egypt, embalming of dead bodies, papyrus ebers, India, hygiene, disease prevention, plastic surgery, China, the philosophical doctrine of yin and yang, pulse diagnosis, acupuncture. Healing in ancient Mesopotamia. The word Mesopotamia was introduced by Greek historian Herodotus. The first ancient Sumerian city stated were formed in the lower Euphrates Valley 43 around the turn of the 2nd millennium BC. Since the beginning of the 2nd millennium BC begins the story of the kingdom of Babylon, which existed for 14 centuries. In 539, the kingdom of Babylon was captured by the Persians and stopped its existence. In Upper Mesopotamia, at the end of the 3rd millennium to the 6th century, there was another great power, Assyrian kingdom, destroyed in 614 to 605 years BC as a result of the invasion of Medes. Sources of information about history and healing at ancient Mesopotamia. The original made cuneiform writing of the clay tables, stone, metal, Artifacts found in archaeological research, testimonies of historian Herodotus, Berosus, and the works of science from different areas. Strabo and Flavia, who described the customs and religious beliefs of the peoples of Mesopotamia, the achievements of their culture and healing. Дайте. Мгм. Healing in Sumer. The Sumerian physicians mastered the art of the cuneiform. Sumerian studied language and literature, spelling and speech arts, philosophy and pedagogy, compelling dictionaries. Healers worshipped by many gods, Lord Endian, goddess of birth 90, a god of the plague era, and the goddess of the healers, Goret. Intermediate in communication between gods and people were the priests. Sumer healers have used in his practice herbal remedies, herbs, musters, plum for tree, fig, pine, and etc. The composition of drugs include the means of mineral origin, crude oil, Butman River, and natural jam, salt. Used animal products, milk, bodies of water snakes, tortoise, shell, and etc. The main achievement of the Sumerians created the foundation of law and established the first code of laws, developed strict hygiene rules based on the collective experience and the national tradition. The arithmetics and the geometry, healing, and the literature of the Sumerians were the basis for the future development of knowledge among the peoples of Assyria, Babylonia, and other nations of the ancient Forward Asia. Healing in Babylonia and Assyria. The Babylonians made great progress in the development of laws, the development of linguistics, mathematics, astronomy, and healing. The gods of ancient Babylonia and Assyria were presented in the form of people and have all the human qualities. In addition to the gods, the spiritual world of the ancient inhabitants of Mesopotamia was filled with demons and spirits. They were considered the perpetration of unpleasant events and disease. Doctors' knowledge of Old Babylonian period were recorded on clay tables. Collections, plagues were selected on the grounds of illness or names of damaged parts of the body. From tables together make up the gules, the guide, which had been widely used by healers. These are how the clay tables looked like. In ancient Mesopotamia, formed two directions of healing. Ashurt, art healers engaged in empiric healers, Asu, Shiput, art spellcasters. The representatives of the directions were called Ashifu, Kanyu. Representation about causes of disease in ancient Mesopotamia, associated to the violation of social accepted ritual, legal, moral precepts, natural phenomena and lifestyles, eating junk food, bathing in polluted river, contact with the dirt and sewage, defined religious beliefs, hand of God, a whiff of the evil spirit, and etc. The healers Aso. He believed that the appearance of diseases is associated with natural causes. His actions were aimed at relieving the specific manifestation of the disease, stop the fever and heat, remove the edema, make the disease go away, calm protruding vessels of hands and feet, and etc. For this purpose, I used herbs, mineral products, alum, sulfur, salt, and animal products, honey, wax, maltobet, fish oil, and etc. The exorcism Ashifu. The disease associated with the supernatural hand of God, a demon or ghost evil spells, and etc. The ritual caster dominated predictions and spell casting. At the same time, rituals were accompanied by drug treatment. The structure of the human body in ancient Mesopotamia have not studied. Obstetrics done by women after the death of mothers allowed by dissections of the abdomen to rescue the living baby. On the living woman in childbirth, cesarean section were not performed. Rapid healing applied only to the treatment of wounds and injuries. Legal basis of activity healers. The Code of Hammurabi, the sixth kingdom of Babylon, the first dynasty, and some paragraphs of laws related to the legal aspects of healers. The law of King of Hammurabi, hygienic traditions of Mesopotamia. There are strict hygiene rules. Above all, they concerned the priests and the person of the king. Not allowed to drink boiled water from canals and rivers, and naturals and artificial lakes were sources of disease. In the capital of Assyria, Nineveh, began the construct of the system for water supply. The idea of building of underground water pipes and ground arcs has come to the west from east. Transferring of medical knowledge. By the middle of the second millennium, widespread individual training at the famous literature. About the medical schools in the text of ancient Mesopotamia is not mentioned. Most probably, they did not exist. Babylonia and Assyrian culture largely served as a benchmark for the whole of the ancient Middle East. Together with tables of cuneiform was widespread Mesopotamian medical text, which were not changed almost until the beginning of our era. Healing in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt culture has African origin. Its typical features: the hieroglyph writing, religious representation, the cult of the dead, and typical art style. So this how it looked like. Ancient Egyptian healing is associated with the religious concepts and cults. Among the main deities of ancient Egypt relating to the doctrine was god Genti. He was honored as the inventor of the hieroglyph writing and medicine. A bright features of Egyptian religions was the funerary cult. Embalming it was the first experience about the structure of the human body. Already in the middle of the second millennium BC, the ancient Egyptians described the large organs, brain, heart, blood vessels, kidneys, intestine, and muscles. Causes of disease in the ancient Egyptian was associated with with natural causes, such as junk food, intestinal parasites, weather changes, and with supernatural causes, introduction of level spirit into the body. The Great Medical Papyrus contained 900 formulations of medicine for the treatment of many diseases. Some recipes are accompanied by the reference to magic spells. A special section of papyrus is devoted to cosmetics. In ancient Egypt were common serious infectious diseases such as smallpox, malaria, and plague. The Nile Valley has been a large hotbed of heavy parasitic disease, urinary and intestinal schistosomiasis. Great Edwin Smith surgical papyrus contains information about the operative treatment. The papyrus describes 84 causes of traumatic injuries of the skull bones, brain, cervical, vertebra, clavicular, forearms, chest, spinal column, and how to treat them. Great importance in ancient Egypt was given to the hygiene requirement. Hygienic traditions prescribed cleanliness at home and moderation in food. The transfer of medical knowledge was carried out in two directions. In special schools at temples, medical knowledge passed by inheritance from father to son. Egyptian healers used the universal recognition. The rulers of many countries have invited them to the service, which contributed to the wide dissemination of medical knowledge in other countries of the ancient world. The period of history medicine in ancient India. Indus civilization, Vedic period, and Buddhist. Sources of the history and healing of ancient India. The ancient literature monuments, the Vedas, epics, Chakara and Sushruta treatises, data archaeology and ethnography, material monuments, and folk epic. The heyday of Indian culture came at the end of the third, beginning of the second millennium BC. Indian culture greatly superior to the ancient civilization of Egypt and Mesopotamia. The characteristic features of Indian culture: monumental architecture, the high level of sanitary improvement of cities, the development of irrigation, development of handicrafts and foreign trades. Healing in the Vedic period. The main deity of the Vedic religions was considered Indra, the god of thunder and lightning, generous patron of the people, the embodiment of strength, courage, and fertility. In the ancient Indian mythology were evil spirits and demons, the Asuras and Rakshas, the enemies of gods and men, also Pichashi, which brought unhappiness, disease, destruction, and deprived posterity. Indra, the god of thunder and lightning, generous patron of people. Information about the medical healing of the Vedic period is limited. The medical knowledge of the Vedic period closely interviewed with religious beliefs and magical rituals. These views are reflected in the Avatar Veda. It is represented by the empirical experience of the people on the use of medical plants. Ancient healers called Bshirashu to cast out demons. In the later period of the history of ancient India, healer exorcism turned into a healer, a doctor. Healing in the classical era. By the beginning of our era, in ancient India, there was a highly traditional system of medicine, Ayurveda. Ayurveda, or Ayurvedic medicine, used natural medicine on the basis of a nation philosophical traditions. Famous people of tradition Indian medicine, physicians Chakara and Sashita, the authors of the two classic treatises. Shahara Samshita, which described the treatment of internal disease, and Sushruta Samshita, which is largely devoted to the surgical healing. Concepts of the structure of the human body in ancient India were the most complete ancient history. Knowledge of the Indian healers in the structure of the human body have a significant role in the development of ancient Indian surgery. Knowledge about the causes of disease in the classical period of the history of ancient India. The person is in close contact with the environment, which, according to the ancient Indian, consisted of 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. The life of the organism seen through the interaction of 3 substances: air, fire, and water. Health is understood as the result of the balance ratio of 3 substances and the disease. The disease is a violation of the right relation and negative impact of human 5 elements. The diagnosis of disease was based on interviews with the patient, check the heart of the body, skin color and language, secretion in the lungs and noise, and etc. Sushruta describes a sugar diabetic, which he tested by testing of the urine. Treatment of internal disease. The most fully represented in the treatise Shahara Samshita. The treatise contains sections: the treatment of wounds, treatment of head disease, the treatment of whole organism disease, treatment of mental illness, treatment of childhood disease, antidotes, and anti-aging elixirs. The art of surgery in ancient India, by its level, was the highest in the ancient world. Following the customs of the country, physicians carefully observed cleanliness during operations. Surgical instruments were made from steel. Sutura materials made from linen, tender fibers, and horsehair. Achievements of Indian healers. They performed amputations, laparotomy, herniatomy, plastic surgery, removed the lens, cataract. Rhinoplastic method came to be known as the Indian method. Indian plastic surgery outplaced the European until the 18th century. So the surgery on the cataract. The surgical instruments. Birth attendants in ancient India. Sushruta gave detailed advice to pregnant women about the observance of a cleanliness and healthy lifestyle. He described deviation from the normal course of the delivery, malformation of the fetus, section. Hygienic tradition in ancient India. In ancient times, were first attempts prevention of infectious disease. At all times, great importance was attached to the personal hygiene. Hygiene skills developed in an empirical way were fixed in the laws of Manu. An important role in development of medicine in ancient India were the monasteries and monks. All the monks had knowledge in the field of medicine. Healing in ancient India was connected closely with the religious and philosophical doctrines, among which a special place is yoga. Yoga includes religious philosophy, the moral and ethical doctrine, the system of exercise, postures. A lot of attention is paid to cleanliness of the body and the peculiar lifestyle. The teachers of yoga consists of 2 levels: Hatha yoga, physical yoga, and the Raja yoga, the mastery of spirit. Among the centuries of medical education occupied a special place, taxila. A person who studied medicine had to master all the skills of medicine. After graduation of the teacher spoke to his disciples, preaching, which is the basic ethical position, is very similar to the oath the ancient Greek healers. In Indian medicine has had and continues to have great influence on the development of medicine in various regions of the globe. Healing in ancient China. For thousands of years, China has been a unique example of the constancy of the national culture and traditional medicine. This is due to the relative geographic isolation of China from the ancient civilization of the East. In the history of ancient Chinese healings, distinguished two periods. The period of the traditional Chinese art of the healing and the period of the Han Empire. The sources of history in ancient China. Medical writings on monuments, the data of archaeology, ethnography, and artifacts. Typical Chinese philosophy. Why primordial matter is created to opposing substance, yin and yang. Yin was perceived as a negative, cold, feminine, and yang is a positive, warm, and masculine. The concept of yin and yang was perceived traditional medicine. Representation about health and disease in ancient China. Health is understood as a result of the balance of yin and yang, and the disease is a violation of their right interaction. The variety of disease was due to the interaction of the organism with the environment and nature. Traditional Chinese medicine involves Zhenju therapy or acupuncture, the system of breathing exercise, Qigong, point massage, and more, medical healing, dietetic traditional Chinese gymnastic. So these are the points of acupuncture. The art of diagnostics of ancient China. Examination of the skin, eye, mucous membrane, and tongue of the patient. Listening to the sounds arising in the human body. A detailed survey on the patient. Examination heart rate and the pressure on the active points of the body. The art of diagnosis in ancient China. Examination of the skin, eyes, mucosas, membranes, and tongues of the patient. From traditional Chinese medicine entered the world practice from plants, ginseng, lemongrass, camphors, tea, rhubarb, and ricin. From animal products, deer antlers, liver, gelatin. From mineral substance, iron, mercury, sulfur, and etc. Disease prevention in ancient Chinese medicine. For the Chinese, the real doctor is not the one who treats the sick and the one who prevent also the one who prevent the disease. Among the most important therapeutic measures in ancient China has long been in massage, physiotherapy, and breathing exercise. In today's world, the traditional Chinese art of healing has a growing role. It is important to study the heritage of Chinese medicine for modern practice. So this is all for our lection for today. See you on next lection. Goodbye.